Good evening and welcome to another SOP live stream. Tonight's topic, self-defense and you. And we got a few things to cover real quick, but first let's start off with saying hello to those who have made it to the chat so far. And let's see, I see Backwoods Law, there's Gil, I see Dustin, Courtney's husband, there's Uncle Al, Divo Frog 79. Al, I hope you're getting plenty of rest. You're still off communications live until tomorrow, and that's when next time we can invite you back up. So until then, bed rest, young man, or I'm going to call your doctor. There's Miss Courtney at Wide Family Farm. Anybody else yet? There's Steve. There's Prep Fort, Shady Hill. There's Howie, Food Forest Permaculture. If you need help on your gardening, go check out his videos. You might learn something. I know I did. There is Miss Prairie Rider. Good evening, Little Miss Queen of the North. Good. Thank you, Al. We need you up and running. Okay. Gil is hiding back there behind this pretty little picture I've got up here. So when people think of self-defense, the first thing everybody runs to is toys. Everything from, flashlights with granulated bezels, and I got one over here. You got tactical ink pen, you got taser, rolled up news magazine can be used as a baton. You got a fighting stick, some sort of weaponry that emits a projectile. There's Miss Nina. You got your pocket knife, you got tasers. You got all kinds of little toys that people think of. So we're going to switch over. And let me switch my camera around here. So now you can look at my ugly mug. And there he is. Hello. Just checking the chat real quick before I turn my head and can't see it no more. Okay, Gil's going to watch the chat while I read this. If you have questions, make sure you put it in caps so Gil can see it real quick because we're both getting up there and our eyeballs don't work the way they used to. So, coming at it from a biblical perspective, a lot of people, I'll just read this because it's easier than me trying to ramble through it. The Bible gives no all-encompassing statement on self-defense. Some passages seem to speak of God's people being pacifist. Think of Proverbs, Matthew, and Romans. And I will post this in document form in the show notes below later, so you guys can come back and refer to it again if you would like. Yet there are other passages that approve of self-defense. But under what circumstances is personal self-defense appropriate? The proper use of self-defense has to do with wisdom, understanding, and tact. In Luke 22:36, Jesus tells his remaining disciples, if you do not have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. I've quoted this verse many times on previous live streams. Jesus knew that now was the time when his followers would be threatened, and he upheld their right to self-defense. Just a short time later, Jesus is arrested, and Peter takes a sword and cuts off someone's ear. Jesus rebukes Peter for that act, verses 49 through 51. Why? In his zeal to defend the Lord, Peter was standing in the way of God's will. Jesus told his disciples many times that he must be arrested, put on trial, and die. And there's the verses in Matthew. In other words, Peter acted unwisely in that situation. We must have wisdom regarding when to fight and when not to. Exodus 22 gives some clues about God's attitude toward self-defense. If a thief is caught breaking in at night and is struck a fatal blow, the defender is not guilty of bloodshed. But if it happens after sunrise, the defender is guilty of bloodshed. Exodus 22, 2 and 3. Two basic principles are taught in this text, are the right to own private property and the right to defend that property. The full exercise of the right of self-defense, however, depends on the situation. No one should be too quick to use deadly force against another, even to someone who means to do him harm. If someone was set upon by a thief in the middle of the night, and, in the confusion in the moment, the would-be thief was killed, the law did not charge the homeowner with murder. But if the thief was caught in the house during the day when the homeowner was unlikely to be awoken from sleep, in other words, they were fully cognizant of what was going on, then the law forbade the killing of the thief. Essentially, the law said the homeowners shouldn't be quick to kill or attack thieves in their homes, which is where some of our glorious laws in this state or in this nation are kind of predicated around. the commitment to retreat. They took part of it, but not all of it.
Yep.
Let's see, where was I at?
Now,
yes.
question for myself.
Listening.
Is there anything in there that says about not fighting back if you are attacked? Such as if like a
it's one of the pacifist ones.
But if a thief came in and you're not attacking, you had get out, and then he comes at you to attack you,
then you have the right to self-defense.
Okay. Well, not according to California. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, like I said, some states take bits and pieces and use it to their will instead of using the whole thing. Anything taken out of,
you still defend yourself if they're attacking you.
Yeah, well, it depends on the judge. Anyway,
district attorney.
That too. Let's see. Let's scroll down here. Paul engaged in self-defense on occasion, although non-violently. When Paul was about to be flogged by the Romans in Jerusalem, Paul quietly informed the centurion with a scourge, the whip, that Paul was a Roman citizen. The authorities were immediately alarmed and began to treat Paul differently, knowing that they had violated Roman law by even putting him in chains. Paul used a similar defense in Philippi after he was flogged in order to secure an official apology from those who had violated his rights. See that in Acts 16, 37 and 39, through 39. The persistent widow in Jesus' parable kept pounding on the judge's door with the repeated plea, grant me justice against my adversary, Luke 18:3. This widow was not about to give up and let her enemy take advantage of her. Through proper channels, she pursued self-defense. And this is here where a lot of people say, you're supposed to be a pacifist. Jesus' command to turn the other cheek in Matthew 5:39 has to do with our response to personal slights and offenses. Some situations call for self-defense, but not retaliation in kind. The context of Jesus' command and his teaching against the idea of an eye for an eye or tooth for a tooth. And you see verse 38. Excuse me. Our self-defense is not vengeful reaction to offense. In fact, many offenses can simply be absorbed in forbearance and love. The Bible never forbids self-defense, and believers are allowed to defend themselves and their families. But the fact that we are permitted to defend ourselves does not necessarily mean we do so in every situation. Knowing God's heart through reading his word and relying on his wisdom that comes from heaven alone, James 3:17, will help us know how best to respond to situations that might call for self-defense. Boop. Okay, let me catch up on chat. I don't think anything happened because I didn't hear you scream.
We Discover Sustainables came in. Gardner Josh came
Hello,
in.
Josh.
I'm trying to see if anybody else. Prep for it came back in. She was listening.
Welcome back.
She was. What she said here. She was listening while cooking. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So next,
I called Dustin out.
Uh-oh. What'd you call him out on?
He said judo chop, and I go no, karate chop or judo throw.
Yeah. Well, considering went to martial arts, guess what? We're segregated. So, speaketh is not my specialty this evening. Anyway, I'm going to share a short little video that I put together. Now, this person is very diminutive at this time. It is from 1985, so therefore it is kind of dated. But
still
this
hottie.
Is that keep family friendly.
My wife knows that, and she bugs me about.
And I'm going to say this in one time only. Any comments that I see that are of a derogatory nature are not family friendly, you will get put in a 30 or 3-minute timeout. I don't approve of that stuff. I don't expect it, and I will not tolerate it. That being said, the video clip is of Miss Cynthia Rothrock, 5-time national champion. She holds 5 black belts. She is very proficient in martial arts. And before I hear one person come up and say, martial arts ain't nothing, man, I can kick their butt. You have obviously never fought somebody who has been properly trained in martial arts. I have been, although I've many years removed of actually even practicing. But I still know my katas. I still know all the moves, and I could still punch above my weight, so to speak. So there is that. So I'm going to play the video now. It's a few minutes long, so please enjoy and ask questions as you need to.
Palm smash. Tighten all 5 of your fingers together and bring them up as high as you can.
And I can't turn the volume up anymore, I don't
Pulling
think.
of the hand back will create a stronger striking surface to hit with.
You may have to turn your volume up.
Palm heel, remember to snap rather than push. This will create a motion that will have more of a devastating effect on your opponent. This technique can be used on the nose and chin. Hammer fist. Curl your fingers together and place your thumb over the fingers. The striking surface will be with the edge of the hand. When striking with the hammer fist, start with your elbow bent. Extend out and chamber back. Again, remembering to snap instead of push. Also, do not overextend. This may cause hyperextension of your own elbow. This technique can be used on the groin or face.
And later on in the description below, I will post the actual video I found this from, so you can go watch it at your leisure as well. Ladies who have never trained in this, I highly recommend you watch it.
Tucked in tight. The striking surface is the top edge of the fingers. When striking, remember to keep the fingers tucked in tight. This technique is used to strike at the throat. Tiger's claw. Pull all of your fingers back as you spread them apart evenly. Like the palm strike, create a tense palm. The technique is most effective when you rip at your opponent, just as a tiger shreds his prey with no second thoughts. This total offensive move is done as fast as you can. Angles can vary. This technique is used to strike at the eyes. Knee strike. Bring your knee up to your chest, bent. The striking surface is the top of the knee. This technique is effective on the groin. When striking with the knee, make sure you bring it up quickly and thrust forward to develop maximum power. The 3 moves for the front choke. Eagle's claw grip to the wrist. Front kick to groin. Elbow smash to temple. 3 moves for the front lapel grab. Double tiger's claw to wrist. Double tiger's claw to nose. Front kick to groin. The 3 moves for the rear strangle. Elbow smash to solar plexus. Hammer fist to groin. Tiger's claw to eyes. The 4 moves for the rear bear hug. Heel stomp. Hammer fist to groin. Tiger's claw to throat. Hammer fist to groin.
Dave? Oh, I think we lost Dave for a second. So it went back to the beginning here. Turn down the volume. You can't hear you, Dave.
Yeah, I didn't want to blow out the eardrums again.
Yeah.
All right. So let's say hello to Jay. He snuck in here. Carol showed up.
Texas
came in.
Texas Rob, yeah.
CB came in.
AKA known as Hughie. Hugh.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there.
I know the first part is hue, almost like the color is hue, but with a little more emphasis on it.
No, Lori, I didn't want to blast everybody's eardrums out again. Yeah. I wanted to give them a chance to turn down their volumes before they started bleeding from their ears.
I may have blown that.
Yeah, I think so. But that's okay. They're not screaming at you yet. All right. So, yeah. So, yeah, a lot of people dismiss martial arts until they've actually trained in it. Martial arts does a couple things for a person. One, it teaches absolute discipline. You're not going to succeed in martial arts unless you have the discipline to do so. Plain, pure, and simple. You cannot, excuse the vernacular, half-ass martial arts. You're going to hurt yourself before you hurt somebody else, especially when it comes to training with any of the weapons. I personally like the staff. I was very proficient with the staff. I tried training with the 3-sectional staff, never got very proficient at it, but I have knowledge of it. Throwing stars, knives, and stuff like that, I'm okay. But, people look at the hand-to-hand combat of martial arts and they dismiss it. mainly because they've never trained in it, or they've never had to fight somebody who's proficient in it. If they've fought somebody who said they knew it, they probably weren't very proficient in it.
Or they've seen the Chinese seminar, flying through the air, doing
Running through the
impossible.
trees with no,
Yeah.
apparently on thin air. Yeah, there is a lot of movie magic in some of those martial arts movies.
Yeah.
Like I said, I will post the video that I took those clips out of. The original video is almost an hour long. Obviously, I took quite a few clips and just made it very, very, very short. It is a good video. It is educational. You will learn something if you pay attention. Now, for all those women out there and some men who claim that they just can't do it or they can't defend themselves, I've got one word for you. Poppycock. You can do it. If you say you can't, you're defeating yourself and you've already lost. It's the same with any training. The minute you say you can't do it, you've lost. Plain and simple. It's the same at a job. You go to work at a job and you look at your boss and say, I can't do it. Well, you're probably going to get fired. Same principle. So being able to protect yourself in the proper biblical context is important in any survival situation, first and foremost. You're not going to be walking to that food bank truck that showed up, grabbing your share of the food, walking behind a corner, have somebody jump you and not be able to defend yourself, are you?
Right.
Admittedly, having toys, like I showed at the beginning, is fun, but if you're carrying 2 bags of food and you don't have a weapon of any kind, all you've got is your hands and your feet. Knowing how to use your hands and your feet in the appropriate way will make the difference between you walking home with that food or winding up in a bloody ball on the corner crying, screaming for help.
Yeah. A couple points I'd like to add to that. Your size weight doesn't deter you from being able to do martial arts. I'm going to use 2 examples. One is totally non-martial arts, but it shows what someone who is regarded as being overweight was able to do backflips, and that was John Belushi. He actually did those backflips in Blues Brothers and some other places. But Sammo Hung, the TV show Martial Law, did his own stunts.
Mm-hmm. Jackie Chan does his own. Jackie Chan's not that big of a guy.
Yeah, and Jackie Chan's my age or older. And so age doesn't have anything to do with it. Weight doesn't have anything to do with it. You can learn to use what you have to your advantage.
Yes, Al, that'll work. But, Al could probably, and if he wasn't on bed rest, I would have had him up here. He could probably, and maybe, Al, this is a little short video you can do on your channel when you're up for it, is a brief history on martial arts and why they were originally started. Quick spoiler alert, they weren't allowed to have weapons in some areas, so they had to find ways to fight without them.
And that's where the nunchucks come from. That was a wheat thrasher.
Yep.
And they learned to thrash wheat so good that, no, I'm just thrashing wheat. Thwack!
A lot of the weaponry that is used in martial arts came from gathering food.
Yeah.
And I do believe it was Backwoods Law that brought up the point a little bit ago. Let me go back and see if I can find it, because y'all moving quick.
The fluid movement. Yeah.
Now, there are some very devastating forms of martial arts and some that are more casual, shall we say, in their use. Now what?
All right, Carol, I want to see you do that.
Keep it clean, young lady, or I have to put you in timeout in the corner. And I may irritate some people here, but a lot of people poke fun at certain moves. They call it Kung Fu grip. And I'm not picking specifically on you, Courtney, but there is proper terms for it. There's Tiger's Claw. There is Eagle Claw, just to name 2. Both, if done properly with the proper hand strength, can be extremely devastating in gripping techniques. If you have the hand strength and you grab somebody's arm or wrist with the proper eagle's claw or tiger's claw, you can debilitate that person really quickly. And if you know what you're doing and hit the right spots, you can cause internal bleeding. Okay. Contrary to what some people want to say that, oh, it's just a bunch of poppycock, it can be very devastating. So until you've trained it, don't make light of it. It's just like, how can I put this tactfully and not get myself in trouble and put it off YouTube for 2 weeks this time? They say ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is only a lack of understanding of a certain subject. And those people who are ignorant, and I'm not saying it to be derogatory, I'm just saying they lack information and knowledge on a subject, have a tendency to dismiss, belittle, or otherwise be derogatory towards something. I do not want to see that in the people in my chat, because that means you've already got a closed mind and you are unprepared for the situations that are going to be arising soon if things don't change. I want to see everybody here with the ability to defend themselves, have a fully stocked pantry, have no issues with power or water, or gas is a separate subject. We kind of have to rely on other people for gas, but having a way to use wood to cook with is an important thing. All this boils down to is being self-sufficient. Mm-hmm. If you're self-sufficient and you can defend yourself, you don't have to carry 200 pounds of toys with you, shall we say, to be self-sufficient. And what did she say? Hold on, I gotta go back.
Which one?
Fishy. I missed it.
Kamaha. Yeah, it's up there.
Kavmaga.
Yeah. And then there's also one down in South America, Brazil.
And I can't think of the name of it. That is beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
But,
that's a lot of feet action. What the French one?
It's a lot of aerobatic action as well, because those guys down there that learn it are very fluid. Their bodies are very limber. Krav Maga is the same. It's a very fluid movement.
Not the jiu-jitsu one or the Jew. Yeah, not that one. The other one. It's got a really weird name on it. But also the French one where they fight with feet only. Brain fart here. I used to talk about that one all the time. Yeah, Jay, that's almost what it is. But there are a lot of different ones that are regional. The one I would love to learn is Jeet Kune Do, which was Bruce Lee's way of the intercepting fist, and the openness to draw in other forms into it.
Which is why a lot of grandmasters refuse to accept what he did. Yeah. There was a big stink in China and Japan over the way Bruce Lee was teaching his Jeet Kune Do, because he would incorporate bits and pieces of styles from all of them, from China, Japan, Korea, all those different places. He would incorporate bits and pieces from all of it. And it made his art difficult to learn properly, but once learned and executed, very difficult to defend yourself from.
Yeah, because one of the things the reason why he started doing it was because by sticking to the rigid format, he got beat one time and was injured and was had a long come back from a back injury, and so he did away with it. His style was no style.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, my last martial arts instructor that I went to go get trained by, after talking to my previous instructors, and learned where I grew up, which I grew up in Detroit, And I had to learn martial arts because I was the smallest kid on the block. A year ahead of most of the kids in my age group as far as schooling. So I was always the smallest person in class, always picked on. I had to learn some way to defend myself. So I took up martial arts. It was hard to learn. My first sensei, the first time I bowed, he smacked me in the back of the head and said, "Don't you ever take your eyes off your opponent again." When you pick yourself up off the mat and you hear that, you tend to never take your eyes off your opponent.
Yeah.
But my last sensei that I went to go train with, when he found out what I'd already learned, where I learned it at, how I grew up, refused to train me. He said, "You have one severe problem. You incorporate street fighting into your martial arts, and I cannot have that in my dojo." So that's when I quit training.
Yeah. You want to share this? This is that Brazilian. All right. So, yeah. So there, I mean, you can see the moves and the stuff they do, very acrobatic in their fighting. Yeah, it is almost like a dance. So, yeah, I am way too old and way too fat to do that one. I'll pick another style, something where I can use my body weight to its advantage. Yeah, there are. Yeah. All right. So, do you want me to? Do you want to segue a little bit into
Sure.
Corsair Trainers? All right. He has two. Steve at Corsair Trainers has two playlists. The first one here is called Use of Force, and I will throw these in there in a minute. And he's got 6 in there, talks about the use of force. Less than lethal, force, imminent signs of violence, intimate signs, follow up. Yep. Okay. He has all this in here. The other one is personal protection, self-defense, martial arts. And that one has 28 videos in it. And he is very, very restrictive in his I mean, basically he's not, go out there and use lethal force. No, he goes, no, do not use lethal force. Know the laws in your area. Find out what you can and can't do without going to jail yourself. So, yeah, so those are the two of them there. And I'm going to stop sharing this if you're ready. And stop. And I'm going to put those links in the chat here. Control C. There's one. And then the second one's going to be the use of force. All right, so there are the two links back to back. The first one is the martial arts self-defense. The second one is use of force. And Steve is probably busy eating dinner, so he's just listening and not going to come up here.
No, I did invite Steve up here because I'm sure most of you guys don't want to hear what I got to say because, well, you don't see it. You don't know it. You don't know whether I know it or not. And that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that. I don't feel I have to prove myself in order to, try and give you information.
Somebody gave you a thumbs down by accident? Oh no!
I don't care. Thanks for the information. Thanks for the input because it all helps. But most of you guys respect Steve, and that's why Steve's driving right now. That's why I invited Steve up here because I knew you guys would at least respect what he had to say. And Gil went over and pulled up his videos for you to go check out. You don't have to take my word for it. If you don't want to learn self-defense, that's on you. I don't want to read your name in a paper because somebody jumped you and you weren't able to defend yourself.
Yeah.
Most personal conflict situations can be resolved by getting your butt off the X, as the proper terminology is put. But if you can't get your butt off the X and you have to go hand to hand, knowing how to go hands on is imperative to survival, be it now when times are good or even more so when times are bad.
Yep.
And I already gave you the biblical perspective on, what the Bible says about it. You have the right to defend yourself in proper context.
Mm-hmm.
Going out and starting a fight and then fighting back after they've hit you is not defending yourself. That's causing an issue. So that I'm not condoning that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Just because you know how to do a palm strike doesn't mean you need to go to the local bar, see some guy, being belligerent to somebody and go palm strike him upside the head thinking you're defending her. No, that's not what it means. You're actually going to wind up in jail.
Yep. Because you instigated violence.
Yep. Even if he's hitting her, you do not have the legal right to go up and defend her. All you're legally allowed to do is go call the police, unless, of course, he hurts her in a bodily damaging, short of murder type way. Then you have the legal right to defend her. And it's such a very complicated line to walk. I would highly recommend you search out each individual state's recommendations on that itself, because every state is different. Every state has it worded different, and what's acceptable in one state is not acceptable in California. I mean, any other state.
And even in California, it varies from county to county and to who the current district attorney is, what they want to go after. Because some of them will say, no, that's fine. And another county, oh, no, you can't do that. And so you got different opinions from, you put 57 district attorneys together in a room, you're going to get 384 different opinions. Because they're going to flip-flop on their opinions 2 or 3 times.
And Courtney, Dustin, I don't know if you may or may not know this, there is a drunken style of Kung Fu.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking what they show in the movies either. They show drunken master, they show the monkey style, praying mantis style, crane style. They show all these little bits and pieces of these styles that if you look at the movies, because they're only showing such a minute part of each style, it looks almost comical to a degree. But to take the time, in all honesty, unless they've changed the way they do things, once you make black belt, it takes a year's worth of training to make the next level of black belt. It usually takes, on the average, for the average person, an average learning person, 1 year to progress each belt. And belts have stripes too. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's not something you're going to learn over the weekend. A full-fledged style. It's just so much to learn. I spent 6 years in one style and barely made black belt. Barely. So it's not something you're going to learn very quickly. I learned relatively quickly, and being I was a small, light guy, it was easy for me to jump and kick and do all the fancy stuff that some of the other students weren't able to do at our age group. I was breaking boards 6-7 months before most of the other students in my class because I learned a key concept really quickly. When you're trying to punch something, you don't try to punch through it. Okay, that you don't. You punch and snap. That sudden stop transfers more pressure. Think of the little office thing where it's got the little 5 balls sitting on strings, and you pull one back and it just keeps going like this. That kinetic force that's transferred is the same principle when you do a punch or a kick in martial arts. It's the same principle. So learning that principle is key to progressing. I learned it really, really quickly, my training. Some of the other students didn't. What's Jay making smart comments about now?
No, he's actually, his last comment is actually a pretty cool comment.
Oh, wait. See, I expect Jay to be the comic in there, so
yeah,
I got to keep him in line now.
He's been going back and forth from being serious to being a comic, but his serious stuff is is pretty decently good.
Yep. A lot of people don't want to try because some of the katas, after you get to a certain level, are insanely hard, require insane amounts of concentration and practice. Hey, CR, I see you snuck in there.
Hey, CR from north of the border, and we got 3 from north of the border. We got CR, Prairie, and Food Forest.
Yep, Canada representing.
Uh-huh.
And if none of the other people from Canada want to visit, that's okay with me. We got 3 good people as it is.
Okay. Well, I do have a secret weapon though, Dave. If I know trouble's coming, like the riots are getting bad and I know they're gonna be here, tomorrow or something, I got a secret weapon to use. Hang on, I got to kill my green screen. Green screen, none. I'll start chowing down. And if that don't work, I'll throw the can. And of course, I do have my Men in Black.
Awesome, Lori. Glad to hear it.
Yeah. Won the contract. Cool. But I do have something my dad taught me, and that was using this. Heavy duty strong chain. And you just start whipping it around, and you can smack somebody with it. And it's the pop. Of course, the watch won't work again after that, most likely, unless you have a really good Timex or Rolex one that takes a licking and keeps on ticking. But there are, believe it or not, I've seen a lot of those. What do you want to call them? Gangbangers with the big fat wallets with nothing in them but cardboard and other paper on the long chain. That's what they use them for fighting with. And they don't. Some of them used to put
ice on it.
They used to put some pieces of metal in there to give it more weight until they got nailed for it being a blackjack then. So they just loaded up with paper, bills, ads, and stuff like that. I'm out of money, but I got all my other information in here, and it gives it enough weight when they smack and hit with that can hurt. And I bet Steve can report all sorts of improvised stuff from his time at the big house as the guard.
All right, Al.
All right. Just seeing what everybody's Garden State Gardeners here.
Hey, welcome. I'm just trying to catch up on chat. Y'all moving pretty quick. Yeah. Do I have to put this on slow-mo to keep up with it?
Yeah. One of the things, self-defense things, and some people say, you don't want to use that. But I was teaching it back in the late 70s and actually had one of the girls come back into class and said, it worked. I was in San Francisco and I got attacked and it worked. And that was the Bic lighter and a can of VO5 or Aquanet hairspray. Because she was running, she was retreating from the guy grabbed at her, she pulled it out and one popped and the guy took off running.
Yes, Courtney, I admit I am above the age of half century, so yes, I am old.
Let's see.
I also invited one of the spunkiest ladies I know, but apparently she either A, is busier and I'll get out, considering she lives down south, or just didn't get the email yet. I invited Miss Mousetoes. Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately, we don't have her input, but she carries herself the way I think everybody should carry themselves. with a little bit of an attitude of authority. If you walk with an attitude of authority, whether you actually have it or not, if you walk with it, most people won't bother with you because you walk with an air of assuredness that you can take care of yourself, that you are legitimately supposed to be there. Don't walk around with your head hung down low and moping, and don't drag your feet because that makes you look like an easy target.
Hey, Dustin, the bar of soap in a sock is only good inside your home. You take it outside your home,
It's a legal weapon.
It's considered a blackjack, and those states that are, or they have laws against blackjacks, it's usually a felony. So, yeah, the soap in a sock inside the home is one thing. Outside, that means they do that as a premeditative part of the crime against you.
I did not know that there, Tasha. I did not know she had a procedure. Nobody sent me the memo.
Oh, she had yeah, that's right. Oh, okay. I didn't know about her procedure. I know several others that were having procedures over the last week or two. Anything that is a hard item in a sock, or even soft item like sand, and you go take it outside the home and carry it with you, I know especially in California, that is a felony. That is considered a blackjack or a sap, are the different names for them, and that is considered a felony. And if you use it, then it's a felony assault with a deadly weapon.
Yep.
Even whether you say, well, it's not deadly, and it's considered assault with a deadly weapon.
If you catch somebody right side of the temple just right with a sock with something in it, it can be deadly. It can kill somebody.
You catch them in the throat with it, with a thing of soap.
Crush your Adam's apple.
Crush the Adam's apple, and they'll bleed to death in 30 seconds. Inside, they'll choke you in 30 seconds. They'll be, out.
That's it, backwoods. Just rub it in. Yeah, that's it. Just rub it in, old man.
Actually, some of it's gone to Oregon, Washington. Believe it or not, Arizona has the thing with the saps and the blackjacks. And there's
the J I was expecting.
There's a few of them.
What a bar! A bar of soap wrapped in the BLM T-shirt. Well,
that's I'm just going to go do my laundry. No, seriously.
Don't give them any ideas, doggone it.
Yeah. Hey, Charlie Hooks.
Hey. And that's a valid point as well. Violence is rarely the answer, but when it is, it's the only one.
Yeah.
If you're backed into a corner and somebody's wielding a knife and you know how to defend yourself, it's the only answer.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the only answer. You could let them stab you to death. I mean, that's another answer, but it's not personally one I would choose. I will defend myself.
Dustin, if you have a frozen roast in a pillowcase and you can swing that thing fast enough to use it, more power to you.
Exactly, backwoods. It only takes 12 pounds of pressure to crush the larynx or the trachea. That can take. But for those who are just joining late, I gave biblical principles at the very beginning of this. So go back and watch the very beginning of it so you see where I'm coming from.
Yeah. What's interesting about this, Dave? The video I talked to you about just when I first came in before we went live, I was working on. I ended the last couple of minutes of it talking about the training I've had both in law enforcement and as a federal agent, and some other training which I will not talk about anywhere, and that my wife has also had, and her being a drill sergeant and everything else, and talking about being able to protect our properties and stuff here, which is kind of I've been working on this script for this video for the last week and a half. And so I'm editing it right now. Editing's running on the other computer here. But, it's kind of interesting is that, talking about the training and what I showed up there earlier with those two playlists from Corsair trainers and talking about the use of force and personal protection, self-defense on his playlist. Is this kind of what do you call synchronicity of events coming together here? And it's time for me to slip out of here because I got to set some stuff up here.
Yep. And all right, see you over there.
All right.
Miss Lori, yes. And in a situation, if I found no other alternative, you're darn right, I'll throw a punch. If it's me trying to live, if that's the only choice I have, death or living, I will fight as dirty as necessary to come out on top. Some people say, oh, you can't hit somebody there. That's just wrong. No, if it's my life on the line or my son's life by extension, if my life's on the line, I'm going to do what it takes to survive. Plain, pure, and simple. Now, am I going to go out and fight somebody on purpose to do that? No. But to survive, yes. Agreed, Backwoods. Excuse me. Better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And there's the link to Gil's Live if you need it. In my position on, seems how we're wrapping it up. My position on personal self-defense in fighting situations is to be able to stop the attacker and get yourself away from the endangering situation. Get off the X. Don't sit there and loiter around if they're on the ground holding their throat or their groin or whatever. Move, call the appropriate authorities, tell them you were attacked, you defended yourself, and then shut up. And I don't say that to be mean. I mean, shut up. Don't say nothing else. If you have to, contact an attorney afterwards. Tell them you had to defend yourself, and then shut up. Because it's going to be a long battle if you have to defend yourself in good times. Even if you're 100% in the right. You did everything by the book. You did everything right. You were attacked first. You defended yourself. They're on the ground, and you're standing up, making the phone call. You still have a lot of answers you will have to give. Call the police. Tell them you had to defend yourself. You are no longer at the area where the situation occurred. You have got yourself to a safe place and wait for the police to show up and just tell them, look, this is where it happened. That's where I left him. And then don't say nothing else. Tell them you want to talk to your attorney before you say anything else. They may place you in cuffs. You may have to go downtown for a few hours, but that's far better than the alternative. And with that, I think I'm going to shut this one down a few minutes early so I can get my son off to bed because it'd be almost 9 o'clock and he got to get up for school in the morning. He's still got to get up bright and early. So I appreciate everybody that showed up. For those who came in late, if you want to see the biblical stance on it, please, when this goes back to being on replay, please go watch the first few minutes of it. I will post later on a link to the original video where I pulled my short video that I played this evening. It's about an hour long. It is from the 80s, so ignore the hairstyle and clothing, please. And at the very end of it, there's some exercises that are very 80s. I'll just say it that way. So, hey, P2E. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate it. So, I'll see everybody over at Gil's in about 10 minutes or so. So until then, be safe. God bless y'all.